All right, it's showtime. Welcome back, everybody. Why Wells Fail? CEO of Refined Completions. Lloyd, how are you, Lloyd?
I'm really good, Steve. Loving the rain.
Yep, nice change. A little cool. I had to get my jacket, my long underwear out, but enjoying this. So today we're broadcasting on LinkedIn, X, and YouTube. If anyone has any questions, we're always monitoring the comments. So love to hear from our audience today. If you got any questions today, the topic is around. We're going to talk about the refined way framework. Now, this is a patented, intended for grant, process-driven approach to well optimization, and what we're going to discuss today is what kind of teams find the refined way appealing to them and fits in their culture and their professional work processes.
Well, the teams that it fits within, the companies that have that are the leaders in looking at our patent and our technology, are ones that don't think that they have it all figured out, or realize that this is a very dynamic process, and they're more focused on science and technology. And don't necessarily have a bad taste in their mouth for snake oil salesmen that our industry's done such a great job of creating a well deserved reputation for having the super thing that fixes everything.
Mm-hmm.
So companies that love process, companies that love to understand that we're not guessing on how to determine what a well needs to perform at its best. I think that's probably the type of companies that are looking at that. It's when we are meeting with companies, and tomorrow we have a meeting with a very large international operator, and their focus is our belief and understanding that we're disrupting the geology. When we frack it, we're taking something from static equilibrium into disruption. And the fact that we have a constant, number one, that we can utilize to measure how poorly or how what is the level of disruption, and then how do we know that we've kept that disruption from creating long-term problems that reduces the ability of the well to give up its oil and gas. That's really the kind of companies that are looking for it there. It's not a focused on a single test or a series of tests that you have no way of applying them in the field and understanding did what we see in the laboratory actually provide the results that we see, because that's what we have is a process that we can measure in the laboratory, and those measurements are directly related to what we see in the field. And if there's not, then we've got a problem with our science to be able to go back and figure out, all right, what did we miss?
So when they're running a business, they've already got processes and systems in place, mm-hmm. purchasing, accountability, training, et cetera, all those things. Then when it comes to this one aspect of this whole system of processes, oftentimes it's just kind of the best guess about what's the formula that needs to be poured down whole to make it optimal as far as production, right?
Yeah, and I think part of it is it's what series of beliefs do you have, right? That's the one thing that I think that's a common thread is the companies we work with, they're continuing to learn. They don't think that they've got it all figured out, and they ask great questions. That's another consistent attribute of a company that we work with. I think that those are the key things.
So they're using data to make the best business decisions as possible. And in the refined process, this patented, intended for grant process that you've been awarded,
Correct.
it's unique. So what's different about it, and why is it a big deal?
Well, part of it is it's founded based on the natural law of equilibrium, number one. Number two is, in our patent, we discovered another natural law that occurs when you disrupt geology. It's a function of the degradation process and a natural law that we discovered during that process. And in that natural law, it gave us a measurement in the geology that is a constant. Like in mathematics, pi is a constant, right? We use different mathematical equations. Well, we have an element that we now measure that is our constant. It's the thing that is the indicator, is the disruption creating acid gases, CO2, H2S, and other degradations of the geology that are going to be a detriment to the production of oil and gas or not. And so having that ability to have that that translation from what we do in the laboratory to what we see when the well comes on, we have an intuitive, it's not rocket science. Although there's a huge amount of mathematics and algorithms that we've created, and we're utilizing AI to help us continue to improve our algorithms. And when we're receiving all the data that we get during flowback and we're looking at the water and understanding, are we seeing what we expected or not, and why? That's where AI really helps us analyze the data at a much higher level, much quicker, and it tends to pick up the anomalies much faster than we can as humans. So,
yeah. So this new natural law is one thing that I look for in a situation when there's a little bit of chaos or a little bit of like all these different variables. I'm trying to find what's the one standard that's not moving. And then this situation, it's this natural law that you guys have discovered, right?
That's correct.
You have so many variables. You have heat and pressure and all the things going on.
Yeah, time, right?
Time.
We brought in a fracturing fluid that's saturated with oxygen and other components that are utilized to be able to get into the rock, to frack it, crack it open, but at what cost? And so we're able to measure what that disruption does. And then our real technology is around creating a combination of chemistries that mitigate that at the best level. And so, one of the questions is how do you guys get paid if you're a technology company? Well, Apple's a technology company, but they create a physical product. Our physical product happens to be chemistry. And that's how we get compensated until we can figure out, are there opportunities to license what we've done and help reach more of the market. Those are some of the things we're on the path of discovery.
So this the snake oil, you brought that up, and so that comes from these folks have this one size fits all super silver bullet that's supposed to solve it, but in
by the way, guilty of making that claim before. Been there, done that.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying they did it. I'm saying we've done it.
Right. But here now, your whole system's changed over time, over data, over experiences, over failures, right?
Absolutely.
And also to start to be congruent with the way that the overall business climate of these companies that you work with that are very forward thinking as far as business and processes, et cetera. This formula that you're going to put down to, I think you call it, you got equilibrium and then dynamic equilibrium, right? So this chemical is going to help maintain what used to be static.
Correct.
To run in an optimal dynamic status, right?
Yeah, and the dynamic is how do we keep the negative aspects of degradation of the geology from impacting receiving the oil and gas? Because one thing we found, we can really get into such a dynamic equilibrium, we can bring it back to stasis, to a point of static, and not get any hydrocarbon out.
Really?
And, yeah. And that's a massive failure. We'd rather have the, the problems and get the oil out and deal with those. And that's basically what we've been doing all these years. We settle for the known operating expense. What we have figured out is that we can eliminate a significant long-term operating expense for every well that follows this process. And that's the other part of it is our patent is not on a specific chemistry. It's on the method and the process of inhibiting the degradation of the geology and releasing CO2 and H2S. And that's the method that we have. And it's a process patent is extraordinarily difficult to get.
Wow. So instead of going, oh, we have the secret formula off the shelf, just ready to go. That's where many, when I think about the chemicals you go buy, they have this one size fits all, but it's a secret formula that's been tested. Mm-hmm. But in your case, it's the process that creates a unique formula for that particular pad or formation.
That's correct.
So the differentiator is significant when you have a process patent. Let's talk more about that because I'm not a patent expert, right? So a patent's a patent until you understand what patents are about, right? So let's talk about that.
Well, there are patents that are utility patents, for example, that describe an invention, a utility. There are product patents. In chemistry, there's a lot of chemical formulae patents. And then a process patent, what's unique about it, and I use this example all the time, Lipitor, when it was originally patented, I believe it was Pfizer, patented the process for inhibiting the deposition of lipids in your heart. They didn't patent a specific chemistry. Any pharmaceutical that stopped the deposition of lipids by the mechanism that they discovered, they owned. And it took forever for, I think, Merck to come out with Crestor to compete in that space because they found another mechanism that didn't violate that patent. Well, that's what we have. We have a process we understand, and there's different types of chemistries that you use. There's things that you avoid. There's processes that are always evaluated. A multiple of processes as part of this before we come in with the formula, the cocktail per se that we apply to mitigate that negative impact.
So that's a transformation that your company has made from a chemical company to a process company.
Correct.
Taking advantage of a large amount of data, artificial intelligence, and a whole lot of experience.
Correct. And the artificial intelligence, it's only as good as what you put into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to let it know what you're looking for. And then, so it's funny. It is artificial because garbage in, garbage out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where our life learning is. Now we're asking it to see and look for different anomalies, different things that, it can recognize sooner because we've trained it, we've taught it. You and I do a lot of this with our teams as we're creating an ability for them to have a resource. It's if what I'm providing and our conversations are not working, they're going to have a poor resource. Mm-hmm. So it's AI is not all the end all panacea, but it really, really moves things very, very fast from an analytic standpoint.
Well, when you have a standard that always is a constant,
mm-hmm.
A human, we have life experiences. We have our experience stack and our tech stack, kind of all those things. Then we have this large amount of data that you were able to pull from all these different resources, but a human can't look through that and see success patterns or measure against that standard. And that's where the AI is helping you, is taking advantage of all those mountains and mountains of data now.
Absolutely. And it's not prejudiced.
Mm-hmm.
We humans have the ability really to have an outcome meet their prejudice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in science, that's the hardest thing to avoid. And it's the thing that kills your reputation. Because if you're building, and we've seen this in the industry, companies have built tests to prove the performance of their chemistry in the laboratory, but it has no ability to actually apply what happens out in the field.
Wow.
And it's based on a premise and a prejudice, and then it's applied. But how do you measure that? You can't.
So the refined way is pretty much the opposite of that.
Absolutely. If we can't measure it and it's not demonstratable, how do we know we've done anything? I think the real question is, how do we have the confidence that we're speaking the truth?
Mm-hmm.
And here's one of the great truths is we don't know it all.
Mm. That's a relief, isn't it?
That's a relief. And boy, don't know that I want to, right?
So that's your real differentiator when when you're thinking salespeople, they're trying to get the relationship established and get the deal signed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And be able to start invoicing. And so they're struggling to have, what's our differentiator? We have certain products, but what we're providing is a process to get the right answer for what that pad needs for the weld to perform in the best way over a long period of time.
Yep. And here's a real cool development. So the math, the algorithms that we are continuing to reform, our math is getting in a place that's we're seeing real consistent, measurable results. We can baseline it and then go and measure against that baseline, and we're meeting the mark. And so what does that mean? That means now the mineralogy testing that we're doing, we don't necessarily have to do all the wet chemistry that we used to have to do just a year ago, where we're actually utilizing analytical tools and the mathematics of what the geology really is, the mineral makeup of that resource. And automatically we're able to now know what it needs to stay and be in dynamic equilibrium when we frack it. So the rate of change for our confidence and our ability to make recommendations is increasing. I wouldn't call it exponentially, but it's doubling about every 90 to 120 days.
That's fascinating. That that made me think about my reaction when I first heard that these drug companies were able to start testing their drugs, but not on people. They were running mathematical equations to determine the efficacy, so to speak, of that system, and that's what you're referring to.
It's very, very simple to that. And the cancer drugs that are going to be available, the autoimmune immunotherapy, the ability to evaluate something, it's crazy, and that's why everybody's so excited about it. It just has the ability to do so much more, so much faster.
So that makes it, because the what's at risk downhole is you can't pour something down the hole and let's see what happens, because once we get to a status, it's hard to claw back a better performance, right? So if we introduce wrong items down there, then we've ruined that hole. And so it's
let's qualify.
Mm-hmm.
You've not ruined it, but you have handicapped it.
Mm.
It's it's not going to be the end of the world, but it's going to make it a lot harder for that well to perform at a high level over a long period of time. It's handicapping it, and as an industry, we've handicapped a lot of things because what we believed at the time. And I could say the Barnett Shale in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we ruined a lot of that geology because our paradigms were on more related to what we are surface water chemistry than the kind of chemistry that happens downhole. And you can look at all the things that we've learned and continue to learn as we move forward to be able to create a more resilient solution. And that's the other thing. Today, I looked earlier, oil was about $56 a barrel. And this volatility that we're seeing, you need to know when you're making an investment of $10 or $13 million in a well, that you've got the ability to recover that investment up front and then to have a rate of return. Our process is going to help lower the lease operating expense because you have less CO2 to process, less H2S, and you don't have the impacts of that from corrosion and scale. The wells actually are making more hydrocarbon per total barrel of fluid produced by using our process. And so this is the why we do what we do. I mean, it's about creating more economically efficient wells.
Yeah, that's exciting. I was doing a presentation on the transformation that AI is going to inflict upon, our government, our industries, our businesses, etc. Whether you like it or not, but one of the big things is it's washing out inefficiencies. It's washing out guesses or assumed mistakes. All these things. It's creating insights that could be argued away between individuals, even though they in the industry, like Buffett he just retired, right?
Mm-hmm.
But everyone looked to him, and they even called him the Oracle of Omaha because what he said was clear. But more and more, those insights are good, but the data, proves out whatever his arguments are.
Well, you know what? And you bring up a real interesting thing. The reason that he was so successful, one of them, but the first one, and I read this years ago, he believed from a very young age or understood the law of compounding. And because he understood that natural law, he applied that. And that was the basis of looking at who he invested in. He wasn't looking to hit the home run. He was looking to get that consistent long-term compounding return. And no matter how much data you have, if you don't have a foundation, something that creates an anchor. And that's what the neat thing about natural laws. I believe in the law of compounding. You have to utilize that in what we're looking at, because the things that every action has a reaction, right? There's something that you're trading off for, and that's part of that continuation process. And that's why people that follow process, that are rigorous, but are always learning, they're successful. And the Wall Street Journal had a great article about there'll probably never be another one like him. Because one of the things is he never took money out to pay a management fee. He allowed the long-term returns. He wasn't getting paid no matter what. He only got paid on the returns of the profits that they were consistently generating, instead of like a lot of money managers, they're going to get paid whether they're up 20 or down 20. And that was an interesting part. He had real discipline. And that's one of the things I'm really proud is we have developed a disciplined way of providing the solutions that we're bringing to our customers.
So it's a compounding leverage, your refined process.
Absolutely.
Excellent conversation, Lloyd. So your process, let's cover this right quick before we sign off, but you're now, is it Germany where
Germany, it is where it's being released, and we have filed in, or it's intended to issue, having to learn these legal terms. And we have filed it in a multitude of countries. The European Union is covered by Germany doing the issue. But everywhere that there is this type of geology, that recoverable hydrocarbons, we're actively pursuing the patents being issued in those countries.
All right. The refined way, honoring natural laws such as the law of compounding. Because when you're I just think about what you're doing. You're over the long haul, you're compounding in several ways. You're compounding in better production over a long period of time. You're compounding the savings on the hydrocarbons that need to be removed, right? I mean, I forget all the terms messed up. I'm not an expert, but
no, if you don't produce CO2 and H2S, you don't have to remove it. So you eliminate that cost over the life of the well.
Yeah. Plus the repair on your equipment, et cetera.
That's correct.
So that's a big deal. That's a new way to look at this. If you're a process-driven organization, this is a process that you maybe didn't know you could expect.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yep.
Lloyd, look at Lloyd. He's gone from snake oil salesman to processed utility patent. No, processed intended for grant. Right?
That's right.
Love it. Good job today, Lloyd.
Thank you, sir.
As always, we'll see you on the next episode of Why Whales Fail. Refined Completions, reach out to Lloyd. He's it's refinedcompletions.com. You can find him on LinkedIn, on X, and the YouTube channel too. So we'll see you in the next episode, and that's a wrap.